For those of you that ask me how I've been doing lawns for so long and how I started doing them, well, it's all because of my father. And actually, he came by today. He doesn't live in town anymore, but he was in town and he swung by, and I kind of surprised him here. I pulled the camera out and said, "Hey Dad, let's talk about how we started cutting grass together." And it turned out pretty good considering I surprised him, and he's going to be 87 years old in 2 months from now. He was in the final year of World War II. He was in the Navy, and he has a hard time with his eyesight, and he's very hard of hearing. But he still has his wits about him. He's been a hard worker, and he has taken care of the family by always making sure that he did what he had to do to bring in income for the household. And that's what it's all about. You do what you have to do. You can go out there just like he did, like I'm doing, like a lot of people are doing, and you create work for yourself so you can get money for yourself, okay? So here's the interview. Hope you enjoy some of it. This is my father, Harry Chisholm, and he taught me how to cut grass. He taught me the work ethic. He's been accused of being a workaholic pretty much his whole life, and he didn't like just having a job. He wanted a job that was physical, that he could get in there and hands-on and see a result when it was done. And somewhere along the line he ended up doing lawns too. So when did that all start? What year do you think that was when you first started doing them for money around
You
our
mean
area?
like with you?
Well, yeah, with me, but like
Yeah, that was probably about 78, 80.
78, 80, that sounds about right. Because I mean, I think of starting this, I think of it as like an 82 or 83 thing, because that's kind of when I remember actually going and doing a whole bunch.
Yeah, I remember all them Hot Wheels, about 82, 80. And
Well, at one point it started really pretty much you just working for people on our block, just cutting grass for people on our block.
yeah, I
But
did
you had a job.
everybody on our block.
Well, I remember that. When he says he did everybody on the
I
block,
couldn't go any farther.
he really means like you do the neighbors, and then you go like 7, skip 1, and then do like 6 more, cut across the street, do like 5, skip 2,
But
11 more.
I was working another job too later,
Right.
evenings.
When he started, he stuck right there on the block, and it just sort of kind of went along, and he could do that and go to his job. He could do those in the day and go to his job, but it got to where he couldn't keep up with them all, and that's when I came in at probably 11 or 12 years old. And
Yeah, I had like Bill Buckingham before you know.
right, yeah, just your friend, he'd come and help you and stuff, but
It was a big, I got myself in a lot of work, but I enjoyed it,
yeah.
and it kept my head above.
Well, think of this. I mean, when you're cutting 11 yards on one side of the street, you know, and 14 or 15 on the other side, these yards are the same yards as they were back then. They're the same as
But
now.
I was doing them every week if they needed it or not.
Yeah, if they needed it or not, every week.
Buzz over if they didn't grow or not, but you know, I didn't, they was getting a bargain on what I charged them, you know.
Yeah, well, back then you started off just kind of doing it for extra money, but eventually it turned into the real deal. So it started as just a neighborhood thing, but then when I got old enough to help you, because you were actually kind of maxed out. I remember, I mean, I was your helper at first, and you showed me how to
I
do it.
had 44 yards
Yeah.
when I worked at the airport.
Yeah, you were working full time, and you were actually climbing the ladder at work there, and then his lawn service was just overwhelming, and he hadn't advertised at all. It was just word of mouth, people, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, cousins, go do this one, go do that one. And you showed me how to cut the lawns. I would go with you, and then eventually it'd be like you had to go to work in the evenings. Mom was being a housekeeper. Mom was being the housekeeper for the Edwards, and I was going with you to cut some lawns. And sometimes you would leave. That's how it started. You would go ahead and go home and start getting ready for work.
I had to go to work.
Right. So I would go ahead and he'd let me finish like 2 of them by myself. And then I'd come there, and then he'd be all ready and packed up for work, and he'd drop me off with my mom, who was a housekeeper, and I'd stay there till she got off work after 6 o'clock, after she served him dinner. And then I'd go home. But then after a while, it became like, hey, Greg can just go do these 4 or 5 on this side of the street, you know, whenever he wants, every week. Those are his. And
see, I was having to do the wet yards like you ended up doing across the river.
Yeah, you ended up doing the wet yards.
Do them, I only had a certain many times till I had to go to work. See, so I had to do them in the morning when it's wet.
That's when I first started figuring out you had to do the wet lawns.
Because I couldn't wait because I was on my other job.
Yeah, same here. I was working. I had to be at work for the evening shift, and sometimes I was on days, you know, and I'd still have my lawns, and I would get off work, and that's when it was raining. It had been sunny all day, and it was killing me because I knew the rain was coming in. I wish I could get out of work so I could get my lawns done. Today's their day. I just ended up go do them when they're wet, and they look great the next day if you know what you're doing.
Twice as hard when they're wet.
Twice as hard. Takes you a lot longer. But
it tears up the equipment.
Yeah, it's rough on you too. It's rough on you and the equipment.
Everything.
But you just started this just by going around talking to people in the neighborhood, and it just snowballed on you. And then, so if a person, and you had just basic equipment back then in the early 80s.
If you do a good job, they'll know it.
Oh yeah.
Not all of them, but most of them they're halfway intelligent will know if you do it, because they've been ripped off for years, you know, for different other people.
Right, yeah. Well, they know, people know half-ass work. And they've had, you know, people hire people to get a roof on or windows or siding, and they see the job. And they're leery of stuff, but when they see someone doing a good job and the price is right, they go ahead and stick with you. So they are kind of loyal too. Matter of fact, loyalty, one of the lawns that he started doing in the early 80s, maybe, I don't know if it was the 70s or when, I'm still doing to this day. Okay, this is 2014, by the way. The fish pond yard.
Hell, I was doing that for you. You were still almost in diapers when I was doing that one.
I think, if I think about it, I don't know if it's the 5th generation that lives there now or what, because...
Yeah, the old man and the old lady.
Well, whenever I went with you to be your helper back then, that was one of your first ones that you actually started doing, where you would put a lawnmower in the back of a pickup truck, a trimmer and a blower, and head on over. And we, I remember sitting on the porch. I don't think I was even cutting the grass. I would sit on the porch and talk to them. And they would, it was the grandma and grandpa. Well, then later, it was, how'd this go? Because right now I still work for it. The lady that is there right now, she takes care of
Florida, the one that's there now.
Okay, well, she pays me, but her daughter lives there and her daughter has a kid. Well, the lady that's there pays me. I remember her mother and father, and I remember that mother's mother and father. So it was a great, wow. So 5 generations. I'm still at that yard. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. I'm gonna have to tell that girl that. I'm gonna say, hey.
See the original ones. I remember when the old man retired from General Steel.
Yeah. It's definitely 5 generations now. There's a little baby there.
He was a draftsman for them. And then he died, and then she died, and then the daughter moved from Florida back up here.
So
then we did the granddaughters over on Pershing or something.
I remember that. So if you have some advice to give somebody that's just starting out and they're kind of leery about just jumping into it, they don't know if they're going to find the work or if it's going to be too much work or what.
But they got to realize they're not going to get rich if they are honest. You know,
if you're honest, you're not going to get rich.
They're not going to get rich.
But it's hard work too.
You got to do you got to do the job. Well, that's why you got your job, because you do little extra.
Yeah, I give them extras.
You pick up something out of the yard. Most of these son of a bitches, the people you'd hire to do, they'd leave that. Or throw it back in the yard, pick it up off the sidewalk and throw it in the yard. You know?
Right, yeah.
I see them. People can see
them. They kick the newspaper off to the side.
Stick it, son of a bitch, in your pocket if you can. Make the people think you're cleaning the yard.
Right.
That's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, but you did this without any major equipment. Back then, the weed eaters and trimmers, they were horrible.
Remember we bought 2 of them for $100, brand new, over Grandpa's store?
Yeah.
We thought we really had some, $39 each.
Yeah, I remember that.
We splurged, you know?
Yeah, I remember that. That's cool. I remember that whole day. We had at that time we had twin mowers, twin mowers and twin trimmers, and we could knock these yards out. And these trimmers were horrible if you look back at it. They were real short. They had one string to come out and it'd wobble and shake. It wouldn't start all the time. And the mowers, they weren't self-propelled. They were. Well, you know what? We did it. We did the same lawns that people are doing in this town right now with nice equipment, but we did it with small mowers.
We knew how well we lived, so the next ones we bought was a little better.
Yeah, we learned the hard way.
We knew that this would help us.
Right. Yeah, we learned the hard way by using the junk. Yeah. We started that was pretty much all there was junk in the early 80s. By the 90s it got better.
There was no self-propelling mowers back when we started.
No, I think Lawn Boy was like the first one that started that around here.
There was none.
People don't. It still holds true to this day, though. You don't need the big machine. You can just still go out and you can get, if all you have is a small mower, a trimmer, and a blower, you can go out and get lawns that those will fit. Now, if you have a riding mower, then you'll need a way to haul that. You know, me and my dad actually took a riding mower and we would lift it up, each get on one side and put the front wheels up on it and lift it up into a truck bed and take it with us for a couple yards that were too big. You know, and then I remember it not starting on some of those lawns, and we had to go home and get 2 small mowers and spend like a half a day trying to cut a big giant field because we didn't have time to mess around. You got to do what you got to do.
If you get behind one day, you're forward and low. If you do that every day, you're way behind.
You're way behind, and you're pretty much out of business.
You're fighting the weather all the time.
Yeah, you're fighting the weather. But it's pretty cool. It gives you a sense of pride when you're done with the job, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. They wonder why I cut in the hot sun, because that's the only goddamn time you can get them done, right?
Right, yeah. They say that to me about the rain. They go, you can't be cutting grass out here in the rain. I'm like, I'm doing it.
Diana, Virginia Scissor Diana, why do you do it in the hot sun? That's what you do like everybody else doing. Like, there ain't nobody else doing it. Look out that window, Diana. There ain't nobody out there. Don't you know all these people that I'm doing their yard, they're the only ones in their neighborhood that want them done.
Right, yeah.
And the only reason they want them done, they're getting them done cheap by me. Yeah, and the right job, you know?
Right, yeah.
And the reason I did them every week, I said, you know, I'm going to do it every week if it needs it or not. I said, because that's a hell of a lot easier on my lot of equipment once a week than wait till they get that damn tall.
Right, yeah. You got to stand your ground with this stuff. Or because people will push you over.
That's why them guys bought them, where you see them ones that swinging that wet grass around you can do early in the morning, lawn services. Yeah. That's why they bought that big equipment, because they had to do them because they would never get done with these places if they couldn't do them when it's wet in the morning.
Exactly. You go out here and you see the steel mills and all out here, the nursing home and all that. It takes them, you know, it takes 7 guys a whole freaking day to do it. Yeah. And if it's raining that day, it's still on a schedule because they can't put 7 guys on that gig tomorrow. It's going to happen. Unless there's a tornado in town, they're cutting. Wet grass is flying. It has to be done on schedule.
Yeah, and now more people that have their yards done and lots done and all this, and companies wanting theirs. That's because everybody was doing it and they wanted to be like everybody else. Mm-hmm. Makes a lot more work for people.
Yeah, it's sort of the more people that got into it, the more it became accepted by homeowners and people to just say, oh, it's one of those extra services. People think of it now when you get a house as like, well, I just have a lawn guy do my lawn. You know, you don't need to buy a mower and all that stuff anymore. You just know that it's out there and available. And nowadays with 2 people working all the time, because everybody has to work, no one's at home, and when they are at home, they don't want to cut the grass. They just like paying $100 for the cable. They just pay $100 to the lawn guy every month, and they want the lawn done. Well, this video is pretty long. I think we'll end it. We might have to make a little part 2 here in a second. Put it up there for whoever wants to see it. Before we go, I know a lot of you guys are having a hard time finding a job. Maybe you have a job that's not paying you very much, and you don't have a lot of lawns yet either. I want to let you know that you can do this. You can go out and find a lot of lawns, even in 2014, just like he did, just like I've done and continue to do. What do you think about the new guy that's getting started? He needs to make some money and go out and find work. Can he do this? Can he just go right out and with the basic setup?
Yep. But you got to do it when you can't do it when it's snowing out. You try to do it at the right time of the year.
Right.
You can't do it. You got to think about it in spring. Every day you got to hit the road.
Right. You got to
But start with your neighbors. Start close to your house.
That is the secret.
And then spring out.
Yeah.
Then go out.
The ones closest to your house are the easiest.
You're going to have equipment to get there, you know.
That's the thing. They had a pickup truck, old van. We've had everything. An old van. We've had minivans. We've had pickup trucks. And we finally had a trailer, the homemade trailer, all that stuff. You can do this, okay? Be I'll tell you right now, you can't be lazy. You can't be a person that thinks about it and doesn't act. You actually have to go out and do this.
You actually got to, you can't be a couch potato. You got to do it. You got to be either sitting at your desk making where you're going to look tomorrow, what you're going to do. Keep your eyes open.
Yeah, you have to be focused on it.
And learn. Watch, when you're cutting grass, watch some guy that's working on a house and learn how that guy's doing it so you can do it.
That's right. There's many opportunities out there. It doesn't have to just be lawns. You can have other things. These other things can take care of you in the wintertime. They can be an add-on to your job. You can do other things. You don't have to be the perfect handyman either. I'm going to go ahead and come up with a lot of ideas for you to have other little side gigs because they can all add up to one thing. In case you don't get enough lawns to fill up 6 days worth of work for you, maybe you can do other things on your days off, and we're going to need to find some ideas for people for the winter time. So I'll have my dad back on here sometime. Shoot me some questions and I'll do a better video with him in the future.